Americans know more about Bart and Homer Simpson than they do about their own freedom. About 22% of Americans can name all 5 of the fictional Simpsons family members: Homer, Marge, Bart, Lisa, and Maggie. But just 1 in 1,000 people surveyed could name all the freedoms granted under the first 5 amendments to the U.S. Constitution. This study was done by the New McCormick Tribune Freedom Museum. And basically what this shows is that Americans need to be more aware of what this great country's freedoms provide. These 5 amendments were the first 5 things that the founders of this country said that the people needed. They also have lasted more than 200 years and have been given to every person who calls the United States home. First, we will be looking at when and why these 5 amendments came into play, what freedoms the first 5 amendments provide, and finally, how uninformed we as a country are about such an important topic. Now let's take a look at how and why these amendments were formed. The original 10 amendments, or the Bill of Rights, was passed by Congress on September 25, 1789, and were ratified on December 15, 1791. The Bill of Rights was written by James Madison in response to calls from several states for greater constitutional protection for individual liberties. The Bill of Rights is a list of limits on government power. The Bill of Rights needed to be formed because the federal government and the state governments were both seeking the most amount of possible power. The first 5 amendments give the basic freedoms that Americans are given and cannot be changed by either the state or federal government. Now, after looking at why and how these were formed, let's take a look at what the first 5 amendments actually say. The First Amendment says that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or of the right of people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. And what this says is that the United States Congress can't make any law about your religion, or stop you from practicing your religion, or keep you from saying whatever you want or publishing whatever you want, like in a newspaper or a book, and Congress can't stop you from meeting peacefully for a demonstration to ask the government to change something. The Second Amendment clearly says that a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, and the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Congress can't stop people from carrying or having firearms or weapons, because we, as citizens, have the right to defend ourselves. The Third Amendment says that no soldier shall in time of peace be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law. This says that you don't have to let soldiers live in your house except if there is a war, and even then, only if the United States Congress has passed another law about it. The Fourth Amendment says that the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. Nobody can search your body or your house or your papers and things unless they can prove to a judge that they have good reason to think you have committed a crime. And last but not least, the Fifth and Final Amendment says that no person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia. When in actual service in time of war or public danger, nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life and limb. Nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. And what this says is that you can't be tried for any serious crime without a grand jury meeting first to decide whether there's enough evidence for a trial. And if the judge and the jury decide that you are innocent, the government can't try again with another jury. You don't have to say anything at your trial. You can't be killed or put in jail or fined unless you are convicted of a crime by a jury. And the government can't take your house or your farm or your car or anything that is yours unless the government has paid for it. Now that we know what the first 5 amendments say and promise, let's take a look at the amount of people that do not know these freedoms. The First Amendment Center at Vanderbilt University has looked at Americans' familiarity with the First Amendment this year. While 61% of those surveyed in 2016 knew that the First Amendment protects the freedom of speech, only 23% volunteered that it also supports the freedom of religion, and only 18% cited freedom of the press. Freedom of association, you may ask? Only 14% of people knew this freedom, and only 6% of those polled could cite the right to petition the government for grievances, only the fifth major freedom guaranteed by the First Amendment. The final test before this video ends is to ask how many people knew these freedoms before this video. I can admit that before researching this topic, I did not know all these freedoms. Moving forward, these are things that need to be well known by the people. We as a country take pride in calling ourselves the land of the free, but if we do not even know what being free means, why take pride in it? To conclude, our country gives us the right to so many different things. We can say whatever we want, you can believe in whatever you want, and you don't have to speak at your own trial if you don't want to. We have rights and protections, but what good are they if we do not even know that they exist? At the end of the day, knowing what you can and cannot do in this world is more important than the donut-eating yellow man on your television screen.